Hey everybody, it's Lynn from A Bit of Birdsong, and I wanted to share a journal that I finished up today. I recently sold some fun packs or junk journal kits, and they are all sold out, but I always like to try to do something with one of the kits so that you can see what is possible. These kits had a lot of different things in them, and Mary, I think, mentioned, there's stuff in here to make several journals, and that's true. Of course, you sometimes have to add your own things to a journal kit, and there are things in there maybe that you don't like, you want to substitute. But these kits had a lot of older, fun things in them. I decided to make just one big journal, and this is like a coffee table junk journal. Now, I tied this piece of cord or ribbon around mine. I will have some of this listed in the shop. I bought a huge spool of this stuff, and it's very sturdy, kind of metallic. It's absolutely beautiful. The only thing is that it kind of does unravel on the edge, and it's one of those kinds where if it gets, see, like this, if it gets going, it kind of keeps going. So I put a little bit of glue on the end of mine. Still absolutely gorgeous though. And I think it's just a really pretty trim. Each one of the kits had a tassel in it. Now, I know the tassel that I showed in the one journal kit was just a little baby tassel. All of the kits going out have the bigger tassels. I took apart my encyclopedia and attached it to this journal in kind of an unconventional way. I didn't just take the book and turn it into a journal as it was. I did want to use the covers, so I just stitched them, one on the front, one on the back. And you can see I have been practicing drawing some of these little bees, and now suddenly I'm curious about something. I kind of like that. I don't know why I didn't add any yellow before, but let's just put some yellow in there. That's really pretty. You might remember when I was showing the kits, I showed some little pieces of paper that had bees on them, and I said, it's a simple design, and if you want to start adding bees to what you're doing, it was a fun design to try to imitate. So right in the front, and again, I used everything in my kit. I tore apart pages, I cut out images. This was a card that was in mine, and I love this beautiful old looking, just the outfit there. I think it's supposed to be comical. She says, I am easily satisfied with the very best. There's one of my paper ruffles, and there are a lot of things you can do with book pages. I had a lot of pages left over from the encyclopedia. After I cut the images out, I tore my whole book apart and separated them into, like any of the maps. I pull aside for the map kits that I list, and I cut out a lot of images to use, and then I have paper that I can make paper ruffles with. I also cut out words, like this just says Free Church of Scotland. I like things that make you think, and these are just some pages that were in here. This is called Dragon's Mouth. This was a postcard that was in the one I kept for myself. Some beautiful botanical images. There is what was once an Easter card, so I just glued that down, and I love the little bunny. Here is a page from the book, This Singing World, and everybody had some pages from that. I glued some of mine into this book, and then with some of my extra pages, I just made this little junky book that I can glue images into, or do some sort of project with, or maybe tear little pieces out of if I need a little piece of paper with text on it. This is one of the envelopes that was in the kit, and in here, in the one I kept, there were these 4 vintage postcards, and they are very, very neat. It almost looks like a sequence of, I don't know what goes, he's under this umbrella. I don't know, then maybe he stands up and then goes after her, and then they're holding hands. I'm not sure of the language on this. So those are in there. That's one of the images from the book. I just glued it right onto this envelope, stamped the word vintage, and there's another little bee. Should we add some yellow to this one too? I think so. This is the mustard seed ink that Jennifer sent me. Then on this page, I'm absolutely jealous of the boots and the shoes that were in this, you know, the book pages that were reproduction. I said, even though they're glossy, they're fun to use. So I just cut out my favorite images out of the sheets that I had. And these are outdoor riders, hikers, workers for women. I mean, I love these. Here is one of the samples. I glued it down, and then we have a place where you can hide a journal entry. Here's a piece of ephemera, tells your hands tell. And my hands tell a tale of crafting and dye and ink. And so this is Bristol Myers True Shea. It must be a lotion. True Shea is oil rich. Wow, True Shea is available at drug and toiletries counters in 4 convenient sizes, 10-cent, small, medium, and large. I would love to have an old container just to see what it looks like. So then we have an old calendar page, the pretty numbers here, a guest check, and a library card catalog card. Oh, you crazy moon. And then I like this, birdhouses and feeders. So this was in a size and shape that it was perfect just to bind it in like it is. And I love these pages. So it talks all about constructing houses for birds, different little foods and things. And then there's a piece of music. You can see where it was tearing across the top. Irving Berlin. It's got a lot of tatters at the bottom. Love that little design there. And then there's some of the bright green paper. Now I did tone down the paper. I have used the paper before, full blast. You might remember this trashy journal, One Girl's Trash. It was constructed of nothing but the green paper, and it's so bright it really makes all of the labels just kind of pop. So I do like the green paper, but for this book I definitely wanted to cover it up, tone it down, do things with it that made it blend in a little better. And you can see I've just cut images from the dictionary pages, the book pages, other pieces of ephemera in here that I liked. This is a little page that I folded in half. I kind of like that. It covered up some text on the other side. Another page that was in the kit, and then there's one of the Mother Goose pages. I really tend to like the older Mother Goose style with the, you know, I like Grimm's fairy tales. I like things that look more old world instead of like a cutesy, anyway, I mean, it's just what I like. So I do like these pages. I don't always like children's pages in what I do. So there's Beach in Normandy, a little print. And then here I cut one of the little images that was in my ephemera and glued it onto the tag that was in the kit, and you can write on the back of that. More pages. I took one of the frames and put it around a piece. I had like a print in my ephemera pack, so I cut it down. It had been folded, and put part of it behind the frame. And you can see the purple paper. I tried to give it some personality as well. And then here's just a card, and I used all of the fabric that was in the kits, those 2 doilies or table scarves. So that's a little place where you can write. And there's part of that print, really pretty. Here's a little image that was in my encyclopedia that I like, the different types of ferns. So I glued that in. I like for junk journals to be, I don't want to say educational, but I think one of the fun things about a junk journal, you could totally have a coffee table book that is a junk journal. Something that someone could pick up and flip through and be entertained on every single page. Here is another one of the frames, and there's part of a dictionary image behind that. That's from one of the pieces of music. I'm gonna love that guy like he's never been loved before. And then, oh, look at these shoes. These are some of the ones that I'm just totally jealous of. They are amazing. They're like high top, well, they are high tops, but it says the Double Eagle pneumatic cushion insole, 88 cents. If that tells you, you know, what this was from the 30s. And there were people who couldn't pay for those at that time. Then we have another Mother Goose page. That was just some of the scrapbook paper. There's another piece of the table scarf to make a tab, more of the print. And then if you remember the laminated things, I cut some of mine down just to make little things to slide in and out of pockets. And then here we have another image from the encyclopedia. There is a playing card. Flip that either way. I was kind of just in the mood to see that side. More scrapbook paper. There's part of the spine of the book. I thought it would be fun to use one of the little coin envelopes to make a pocket. It would also be a lot of fun to stamp an image on there. Okay, moving on. There's the old receipt from 1900, and then here is just a tiny little booklet. This page had the image of a drone, of a honeybee or other bee, and then I took all of the little pages that had the bees and made a tiny little booklet where you can write things down. And of course we have a couple or few really clear images so that you can practice drawing a bee. There's a little ticket or coupon, another image from the encyclopedia, and then more botanical pages. That's the layaway card. I just stuck it in here. You could definitely go back and just continue to distress and add things. This was in my ephemera in the kit that I kept, and that's an image from the encyclopedia. So is that. I just like to take, again, random images that feel educational or interesting and include them in something like this so that it's interesting to go through. There are some pretty old pictures on the back of that music, and you can see just a lot of tearing there. There's the other part of the bird feeder brochure, another old calendar, and one of the images of the clothing. And there's another one of the laminated pieces. I just went back and sewed that in to make a pocket. Here's one of the pieces of wallpaper that was in my kit, and that could be used to write an entry on. And then there's one of the napkins that was in the kit. I decoupaged that onto the folder. And then there's another place to hide an entry, one of the little playing cards that was in the kit. And here's an old piece of ephemera. I haven't been able to find the year. It just says October 14th, Opera House. And we have all of this. I just decided to paper clip that on there. It's a very delicate paper, very thin. There's a guest check and music. I did a little collage on this page. I wanted to cover up some of just the plain writing. So there's another botanical image, one of the stamped images that I included, and then a ticket. And then look, we have more amazing shoes. That one's called the Mohican, and this is called the Contact. I mean, I just can't imagine what those would look like. Those are only 59 cents. New Mohican Chief of the Playgrounds. More botanical images, another encyclopedia image. And then there is that unusual postcard. It tells who the artist is, and I think she donates things to the Scrap Exchange from time to time. I'm not shopping at the Scrap Exchange right now, but in the past I bought that from there. And then we have the tag that was a little bit creepy. So I just glued down this vellum envelope, and underneath it I glued one of the images from the old clothing, the reproduction pages. So you can kind of see that under there. I like to hide things like that. And then I used part of the ephemera and a ticket just to make a little tab for that. And that is a pretty little print or page that was in a book page that was in my ephemera pack. More botanical images and the calendar. And then there is another paper ruffle that I made with part of an encyclopedia page. And then under this vellum, it was sort of a diagram. I hid another image from the singing world. And you can see where I kind of dulled down this page with some a text stamp that I have absolutely fallen in love with. It's very interesting to use that and add water and let it run and just look old and grungy. So this is St. Francis of Assisi on the front of this guest check, and I kind of grunged it up a little bit. That was from the encyclopedia. And there is the beautiful little bird from the Christmas card. I knew as soon as I saw it that I wanted to cut out just the center and use it. And of course that map was in the book that I had. The encyclopedia that I had included the F's, so France was in there. And then I love the way this turned out. I took some of the book pages that had room to write on, like, you know, the inside front and back paper, the very first page and the front and the back. And then there is some room on these pages to write. And that's from the encyclopedia that I had. So that's, I just sewed across the top, and this is a stamp that I bought recently. Really, really beautiful. The Rubbernecker Stamp Company. I think that stamp is beautiful on that old paper. And then there's one of the napkins. I just decoupaged that. And of course with these, the large folder, I just turned up the bottom to make a pocket before putting it in the signature. And there are a couple of pages from the encyclopedia. I could probably separate those out a little bit. That's folk tales, and then I want to leave that clear. You know, I was talking about Downton Abbey. There's something about her that reminds me of Edith. I like Edith. I think Edith is pretty. She always felt like she was the least pretty of the sisters. Okay, so then we have, this card was in my pack, and you could write in that. There's a pretty old book page with a bunny on it, and it looks like there's a mountain lion off in the distance, and the bunny's being very quiet. That's a scary thought. There's one of my table scarves. I used it to make a thick pocket. More shoes back there. You can see I did a lot of distressing on these folders. There's another one of the fabric samples, and when you pull it back, there is a page from the reproduction, the clothing from the 30s. Lingerie, so that's been hidden. And then Cross My Heart, Hope to Die. That is from some music. You know, it's just so much fun to use things like that. You can come back later and like put some color around it. Add some stickers, rub on transfers. There's still so much to do in this book. And then there's some vellum. Was There Ever a Pal Like You? Irving Berlin. And then we have one of the Mother Goose pages. And then here on this little tag, I just distressed it a bit, cut a tiny little image from the encyclopedia, or maybe that was a dictionary page. Yeah, that was one of the dictionary pages. And put this really bright sticker on it. It's like a little crystal, and that's the bustle, by the way. And then in this pocket, we just have this image from, that's Benjamin Franklin, and I love this illustration here of the old almanac, or Richard's almanac. And then here, every kit had one of these. This is this lovely crinkly paper with the words to the different songs and hymns for a community sing. And then there's another paper ruffle. I thought that was an interesting image. That looks like Downton Abbey. I know I'm kind of stuck on that right now, and that's definitely the time frame, 1900. So basically 10 years before Downton Abbey got wound up with the first episode. And oops, music, and I just love pulling the images out of the encyclopedias. There's Fleabane. So I think we just learn a lot by using things like this. And there's flax. You can see on these pages, I used my text stamp again. And again, I'll say it is just one of my favorites. This is Inka Dinka Doo. Had that for a while, and I just used, I painted the page with water first, and then dipped the stamp in Distress ink, stamped it, and of course it just started running right away. And then I used my dryer to finish drying the page. That looks like the Gibson Girl. It probably is the Gibson Girl. James Montgomery Flagg is the artist there. And then we have another little pocket just waiting for something. Here's another image from the ephemera that I had in my pack. And here's just a music page. I like that this says Famous Music Corporation. Another page from the encyclopedia. And you, of course, can see the mother goose in the background. There's a Vermeer. More mother goose, and there's the distressing encyclopedia page. I put some a dictionary, part of a page over this, and this again is some sort of thing. I don't know if it's where people checked things out or if it was a catalog of maybe prints that someone offered, and it had, you know, you could flip through the book and pick out what you wanted, or maybe it's from art that was for sale, because it says title Wood Carts on the Heath. And is it signed? It says no. So coming back over there, you can see, yeah, the wood carts, property of Sass Institute. Well, I don't know what that is. Original print. Anyway, flipping on, we have just a little bit of information in here. And that's in there with a paper clip. I love little things like that. Another part of the ephemera. And that was one of the pieces of wallpaper that was in my kit. And I just put where I ripped out the little part of the page that had the grosbeak. Thought that was pretty. And then over here we have another pocket from a table scarf and some more old ephemera. The Boston Opera Company here, 1934. And Boston Opera House, 1936. And a lot of the clothing in here appears to be from the 30s, even like this. Yeah, some of those hats. Each kit had some bird or nature pages from a book of Florida wildlife. So that's one of those. I distressed it a little bit. There's another one of those images. And then that was from a travel brochure, Stratford. So I guess Stratford retail shops. Enjoy your modern motels, enhance your stay in Stratford. Interesting. And then here are quite a few of the other laminated things, just all these different hats. And of course I used some of the yarn in the kit to tie these together. Yarn is one of those things that I use kind of sparingly because it does tend to get frayed. I like it. I like different kinds of yarn. This is a yarn that I use sparingly because you can see all of these fibers untwisting and it can start to look messy. There's a place for that, but I did just use a little bit of the yarn. And then over here, so I had one of those pieces of ephemera, the church sign. I think all the kits had one of those, and I cut all of the letters out of mine and then put them back together to say lioness. And then there was this image in my ephemera of the lady hanging on the moon, and there's some of that bright sticker paper. I never thought that I would like it so much, but look at it behind that image of her on the moon. I think it's amazing. And then here are more of the nature pages. And I just sort of staggered these with masking tape and distressed them. And then there's more of the lettering stamp. And another one of the images from the ephemera. Calendar page and more ephemera there. So anytime I had text on the back of something, like I really like the botanical side, but then I wanted to cover up this side, I just cut out an image from one of the pages in the kit and covered it. There's an old commencement brochure, and that is from Durham, 1963. And then here is another one of the little laminated pieces. I glued down some of the coin envelopes, and sometimes I just glue the flap down as well so that it's not flapping around. More ephemera. There's a piece of music, Life is for the Birds, which is pretty fitting here. That's pretty together. Glue in there. old piece of ledger paper. And another calendar. So the name of this print is Flushed Out. We'll get to the other side. I was tempted to cover it. It's not my favorite. I love the old letters though, and the numbers. And you can see the pages in here are all different sizes. And I do like that sometimes. I like the layered look in this. It's funny how we can have a style that we love and that we need to be a part of from time to time, but then you can also do all different things. And there's another little piece of the yarn at the top of that. So I just made a tag there with some of the things in the kit. Pretty postcard there. And this is just a glassine bag that something could be put in. It would probably be pretty with an image of some kind in it. For right now, it's just got this, well, we can turn it so that shows the yucca plant. And then more Mother Goose there. Calendar page. So there, you can tell it's dog hunting. And then this is a page, I just kind of folded it back on itself to make a triangle and glued an image of the Buckeye from the encyclopedia, or maybe that was a dictionary page. That's from the music. So you can tell there's a lot more that can be done. I would like to paint something on these pages. And there's an old New Year postcard. Not sure of the date. It looks pretty old. It's to Esther. I can't read who wrote it, but it's very raised there. Just look at that rose and the clock there. And then here, this is a set of images that I love. That was from a book about photography or a magazine, and it just shows these different versions of the same picture with different lighting and, you know, maybe a negative effect. Another playing card, more playing cards. I thought it was fun just to glue those out like that. And then I didn't realize that kind of cross was called a fourchette. I guess I should know that. That's probably French. Okay, and more music. Postcard there, another image from the dictionary. And then kind of a collage on the back here. So I just have these prongs here. I put the image of the man in his hat. Indestructo is the brand. And then this card, I kind of deconstructed it because I wanted to use the back for something and have this image on the inside cover. So that is that. You could take off the tassel if you want to. And let me show you the binding. So there are 3 signatures in this, and it is kind of full, but I don't mind something being like this every so often. This is almost like an informational folder, in my opinion. So each one of the signatures is bound in with this blue thread, but this thread is not the strongest. I mean, it's okay, but I didn't want that to be the only thing binding it. So there's a 3-hole pamphlet stitch in each signature, and you can see each one has just 1 bead. These will lay up above the journal if you need, and that one will lay down below when it's laying flat. But then I went back to the inside of each signature, to the center, and bound it in again with some hemp cord. And this ties on the inside. So you can leave that like it is, or, you know, cut it down and add little whatever you want to. But I did want to go ahead and put at least something together with one of the kits. This is the one that I made. All of the kits that sold will be out on their way in the morning. Of course, they sold late on Friday, and that's not very promising to get it in the mail over the weekend, which here the post office closes in the middle of the day and on Saturdays. And it had already run on Friday, and then of course it didn't run at all today. I want to show you a couple of little things that I did go ahead and add to this. One of the file folders has got a bird here that I drew and put a little bit of paint on. I think it's cute. It's not anything fancy, but you know that's in there. Let's do that. And then I did paint on one of the music pages. Let's get back over here. and there's just sort of a really quick sketch. So this journal, I'm going to list this one. I just think it's really fun. You could definitely add a lot to this. You could take it apart if you want to and use the items in it for something different. Enjoy it for a while and then take it apart, and you'll end up with a lot of really cool cards and handmade ephemera and book pages and things like that. So this one is listed currently through my website, and I will be back really soon. Bye for now.